Hi everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. So I'm finally here with the flip through of this sweet little journal, Terry and the Caterpillars. So I was totally inspired to make this journal from the original book. It's just an adorably illustrated book about a very sweet story about a little girl who, follows the story of moths and how they go from being a caterpillar into a moth and reproducing and all that fun stuff. So the life cycle of the moth. So this is the original children's book. From about here up is the original illustration, and here down I've done collage and pen and ink and painting. I've added an antique brass label here with some paper inside so you can write your name or what have you. There is an eyelet here that is also brass with some vintage seam binding that is tying it closed. It has lots of fun laces and tatting that are kind of coming out the side here. So lots of fun. It is 5 signatures. This is the spine. So I did a 5 signature 3-hole binding and tied them because I just really like tying the bindings like that. I think it's a lot of fun. And then I did do this fun spine dangle, and it is on a bronze ring, and it has some of that fun leafy trim, some green ribbons, lots of vintage green buttons. Some time ago I got this whole bag of vintage green buttons. I just really fell in love with the colors that were in the package and I had to pick them up, so I'm happy to have a reason to use them. Then what I did, I don't know if you were watching, all my videos on this, but in one of them, I talked about what to do with the spine, and I wanted to kind of do something caterpillar-y with yarn. Then I remembered these beads that I make. So these are made from my hand-spun yarn. This one's probably the best example. So this is wire core yarn, meaning I've spun wool that I've dyed around a piece of wire. Then I've made this center here for the bead, and I've wound that wired yarn around it, and I've sunk the inside in the inside of the bead and turned it before I made the closures of these circles here. So it makes these really fun yarn beads. I've made like fiber art jewelry out of them for years, and I sell them at shows and things like that, and they're always a great add-in to add to hand spun yarns. So they're all in shades that have some green in them. So that's a look at that. There's also a fun little metal leaf on there. And then on the back, I left the original green cover. I did stitch down with a zigzag some of my hand spun monarch butterfly yarn that goes all the way around the whole cover. So let's go ahead and pop into this journal. I had so much fun making this one. Very inspiring book. Very lovely illustrations. So let's just get centered again here. Alright, so when you go into the book, I did use a really lovely Stemperia kit called Spring Botanic, and so that is a page of Spring Botanic, and I have stitched down some nice, it's like this light tealy kind of lace that I've added in a few places throughout the journal. So on this side, I've used some nice paper here, made a pocket, and I had a few of these old 1920s images of these little girls. So I added butterflies, and I just added one here. Maybe this could be Terry in real life with one of her butterflies, or her moths rather. So there's both butterflies and moths in here, even though the story is centered around moths. We have a moth here and a moth there. So this is Terry and her friend, and she's got her little jar with her cocoons, and this is just a nice big journal tag to open up the book. And then here we have a pocket made from the book, which has the little caterpillar who has eaten the leaves, and a couple of really sweet little pieces of from the kit, the journal card and a little tag. So lovely ephemera in this kit. Some of my hand dyed yellow paper. You'll see yellow and green paper that I dyed specifically for this journal. So here's the original page of the book, Terry and the Caterpillars by Millicent E. Selsom, pictures by Arnold Lobel. And on back we have the little copyright statement here, 1962. And some nice botanicals. This is avocado dyed paper. And I purposely tore some of the edges. You know, I was thinking about the torn look of the leaves that you know, the caterpillars, they kind of tear little circles, like little edges on the leaves. I thought that was kind of a fun little touch. I tend to do a lot of subtle symbolism stuff. It's just like the weird things I think about when I'm making journals. So this is a page, one of a few, from a really pretty garden, sort of a garden diary that has a lot of nice verses in it. And I've added these green tabs. These are made from a really beautiful Indian shirt, like a young boy would wear to a celebration or a wedding. It's a beautiful greens. You'll see a little more of it as I get into the book. So this is kind of nice. A garden should be in a constant state of fluid change, expansion, experiment, adventure. Above all, it should be an inquisitive, loving, but self-critical journey on the part of its owner. The garden that is finished is dead. So those are both quotes from H.E. Bates. This is just some nice crinkly brown packaging paper. And this is one of a few of the book pages that I just left because I do like to kind of keep little bits and bobs of the story. If I can keep the whole story, I do, but not all books work that way. Most of them don't, but I do try to select pages and put them in an order where the story is kind of maintained. So this is her dad. That night, Terry showed the cocoon to her father. You can't see the caterpillar anymore, but I think it is still moving inside. I think it is making the inside walls thicker and thicker. Maybe so, said her father. What happens next? Asked Terry. Nothing for a long time, he said. But for Terry, lots of things happened. One by one, each of her caterpillars stopped eating. One by one, each began to make a silk cocoon. Soon Terry had 3 cocoons. What shall we do now? She asked her mother. And I like how she's got them like labeled. Some of my green dyed paper. And then we have some fun moth and butterfly field guide pages. So we have the inquisitive monkey here. Lewin's Beg Shelter Moth. There are so many beautiful moths. The giant antleid, and then a really lovely gold doily at the center. The atlas moth. I love the big giant moths. The Luna moth, of course, is one of my favorites. And the Tau emperor. More green dyed paper. And then this is the front page of the book where it's made out to the person that's what's the word I'm looking for? Like sort of the sentiment of the book from the author. To Terry Wolfson, I don't even know how to pronounce this word. I never use this word in my language. How strange is that? Indefatigable. I can't. You know how sometimes you see a word and you just can't put it together? That's the one for me. I haven't heard it pronounced enough. Like, I never hear that word. Let me know if you do. It makes me laugh because my mom has this funny thing where she can never say linoleum or aluminum. It's like she knows how they sound, but they're her 2 words that she can't say. She always says linoleum and aluminum. Like, she just can't do it. And I'm like, is this my word? Except that I just literally have never really seen that word. I think I've seen it a couple other times in my life, but I've like never paid attention to it. So it's one of my things. I'm gonna go to one of those pronunciation things online and hear it and read the word and read about it, because yeah, absolutely I lack understanding of that word. So collector of caterpillars and cocoons. So this was made out to, I guess, the Terry who this book was written for. Terry and the Caterpillars. And here we go, Terry. I like this. She's sort of walking in the doorway to the beginning of the book. For a person whose work throws up an agreed set of figures at the end of each day, a garden is the last sane place on earth. Pam Brown. And this is lovely. This is about the Latin names of flowers. It's by Reginald Arkell. Who took me by the hand why English flowers had Latin names. She couldn't understand those funny, friendly English flowers that bloom from year to year. She asked me if I would explain, and so I said to her, Eranthus is an aconite, as everybody knows, and Helboris niger is our friend, the Christmas rose. Galanthus is a snowdrop, Matholia is a stalk, and cardamine, the meadow flower, which you call lady smock. Muscari is grape hyacinth, dianthus is a pink, and that's as much as one small head can carry, I should think. She listened very patiently, then turned, when I had done, to where a fine forsythia was smiling in the sun. Said she, I love this yellow stuff, and that somehow seemed praise enough. So, quite lovely. Avocado dyed paper. This is an original book page. So it's a science I can read book. So that's the kind of, there's more of these books in this series from that publisher. Some of my yellow dyed paper. This is a Stamperia paper and a pocket from the book of her mom helping her out with the cocoons, putting them in a larger terrarium. And then a couple of pieces from that lovely botanic kit. To flip that, I have to see that cute little green beetle. And then we have a little clip here. It's a little green clip with a star. It's a little paper clip. And this is a journal card that I made from the book. She's sort of gathering leaves for the caterpillars. And this is just a beautiful page from the kit, the botanic kit, with some nice trim down the side. This is from the botanic kit, and this is actually, there's a few of these in there. So these beautiful butterflies and cocoons. They're from the covers of a Dutch magazine called Fleur that I got a bunch of copies of, a bunch of issues, and they're just beautiful, like botanical magazines. And then this is just a pretty book page. And more of the lovely moths. The eye-spot anthelid, yellow-headed anthelid. Is that one page? Yeah, it's one page, okay. The silkworm moth, the small silkworm moth. Yellow paper, and this is more of that beautiful Indian fabric that I was talking about. So this one has the shashi mirrors all in it. This is from the trim of the shirt, and I did a double pocket that wraps around the page. So that's an original book page with that beautiful twisty tree. And then this is from another book on monarchs, and I used my monarch yarn to tie it, and just made a tag. And this is some of my fun painted paper that I like to back tags with. And this is another of those beautiful images from the magazines. And here's Terry with her caterpillars, doing a little bit of note-taking and stuff. And this is just a really pretty little envelope with these little birds and a watering can. And then inside I added this from the Spring Botanic kit. And that just pops on in there. What is a cocoon? It is a silk house a caterpillar makes for itself. And that is from the book on some of my green dyed paper. This is a fabric cluster that I made and added here. A page from that garden book of these beautiful poppies and a tab. Here's flowers for you, hot lavender, mints, savory, marjoram, the marigold that goes to bed with the sun. And with him rises weeping. These are flowers of middle summer, and I think they are given to men of middle age. William Shakespeare. Avocado dyed paper. Another of those lovely little 1920s little girls with a butterfly there. And I left the words caterpillars do and added this bit from the Spring Botanic kit. This is an original book page from the book. Then on this side I made an envelope and a tag that kind of go together and added another little bit in there from the kit. So this pocket says, be like the bird that pausing in her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her and yet sings knowing that she hath wings. Victor Hugo. And this is a cute picture from the book. It's so funny to see this little boy like playing with this girl's braids. Do you remember being in elementary school? I don't know if this happened to you, but I used to have very long hair. And it was like whenever we would have assemblies in the gymnasium, all the girls would kind of like whoever was sitting in front of you, you'd be braiding her hair, and then like there's like this whole chain of girls braiding hair. I remember that. And then this is the bird tag that goes in this pocket with, these go together. And then this is just a cute little bit from the kit. Little journal card. Some green dyed paper, and this is my sunburst paper. She saw her friend Benny. "Benny," Terry cried, "look at my caterpillar." "Ha," said Benny, "everyone knows you have to make holes in the top. How will the caterpillar live without air?" Terry ran back into the house. "Mother," she cried, "how will my caterpillar live without air? Make some holes in the top, please." Avocado dyed paper. Look how nicely that goes with her clothes. It's so cute. Another of those garden book pages, this one with pears, and this is like a nice forest scene. This is a caterpillar image from the book that I made a paper and fabric belly band with on my own dyed paper, and added a page, a journal card from the kit. And then that's the flap of that beautiful envelope. And another picture of Terry here. Terry wanted more caterpillars. She looked for them every time she went to pick leaves. One day she found another green caterpillar. It had orange and yellow bumps on top. And some yellow dyed paper, the imperial moth, Promethea moth, Io moth. Another nice book page. And then this is a pocket made another of those little girls with another moth here on the Stamperia paper with another Stamperia journal card. And on this side, another of those beautiful Moth and Cocoon journal cards made from the Fleur magazine. And an original book page with a bit of my green paper down here, and a word snippet from the book that says, "A beautiful moth was sitting on a stick." And there's the moth there, and some tatting, washi tape. This is another original book page, this beautiful moth. Terry had thought her caterpillars were the most beautiful things in the world, but the moth, it was even more beautiful. It had big brown wings with red and white edges. There were 4 big white spots on. Some of my green dyed paper. The morning sun warms the monarchs soar, glide, dip, and dive. So these are pages, this is a page from the Monarch book that I added into this journal. They drink water from cool streams. And then this is a little tuck spot with some trim here, and this is the mom from the book, made a little tuck spot and added this butterfly journal card from the Stamperia paper collection. What is a weed? A plant whose virtues have not yet been discovered. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Bulb, potential flower buried in autumn, never to be seen again. Carrot, a special food grown for carrot flies. Drought, weather immediately following planting. Green fingers, black fingernails. Harden off, kill by frost. Hoeing, manual method of severing roots from stems of newly planted flowers and vegetables. Henry Baird and Roy McKee from Gardening, a Gardener's Dictionary. Very cute humor in that. And I love this avocado dyed paper with this color that they've used throughout this book. You mean we can make our own caterpillars? We can't make them, Terry, but the moths can, said her father. So far, I only see eggs, said Terry. But 10 days later, Terry saw little caterpillars come out of the eggs. Oh, they are black, said Terry. They are supposed to be green. They change color as they grow, said Terry's mother. Some dyed paper, some nice rose vintage stationery with a tab. And this is Terry's parents here. The mom's knitting and the dad's reading the paper. And we have a little stamp that I made from the paper collection with a beetle. And then I added a little journal card with more of the words from the book. Next year, the mother and father moths will come out of the cocoons. And then the mother moth will lay eggs. Caterpillars will come out of the eggs. And then the whole thing will start again. And this is just a pretty field guide page, some of my dyed paper, and this is our flying moths page here that we made together in the video. Another field guide page. This is a little pocket with monarchs and this beautiful, this is from an old seed guide page with these beautiful flowers. More of that vintage stationery. A belly band and a journal card from the Stamperia collection on my yellow dyed paper. Terry sat still. The moth sat still too. She looked at the moth. It was strange. A caterpillar made the cocoon. She had seen that with her own eyes, but a caterpillar did not come out of the cocoon. A moth came out. And this is like a little paper and fabric kind of cluster notebook that I made. I wanted to use it because of the nice oranges. I like the oranges in this book, and it has these butterflies here. Avocado dyed paper, more from that lovely garden book with those silver dollars. I don't know how people deal with their moods when they have no garden, raspberry patch, or field to work in. You can take your angers, frustrations, bewilderments to the earth, working savagely, working up a sweat and an ache and a great weariness. The work rinses out the cup of your spirit, leaves it washed and clean and ready to be freshly filled with new hope. It is one of the reasons I'm addicted to raspberry patches. The pie is purely symbolic. Rachel Peden. Some more monarchs. They sip nectar from the bright red flowers. Green dyed paper. Another of the pages that I left be to tell the story. For a few days, the two moths flew around the tank. The two moths did not quite look the same. Terry saw the difference. One had a bigger, fatter body. That's the female or mother moth, said the father. She's full of eggs. The other moth had bigger feelers in front of its head. That's the male, said Terry's father. Is he the father moth? Asked Terry. Yes, said the father. The next day, Terry saw something strange. The mother moth was leaving little round things on the stick. Terry called her father. What are those? Terry asked. Those are the eggs coming out of the mother moth. I told you she was full of eggs. What will come from them? She asked. Caterpillars, said her father. More caterpillars, said Terry. And then the monarch butterflies and some pink, sort of a salmon-y colored lace. More monarchs and more avocado dyed paper. Again, the colors really go well together. And this is made from the paper collection, so I did a little fold up sort of pocket, and there's nice paper on the back. Added a word snippet from the book, Everyone Knows Moths, and then we have this little tag inside. And that just tucks on there with a rusty paper clip. Just some lovely entomology paper from the kit. And on back, these are all from the kit. I just really liked this paper collection. I wanted to use quite a bit of it in here. I thought it was very sweet. This is a flower press book, so it says name, date, place. So if you wanted to press some flowers, you could, and you could add them here with some information. I think it would be really relevant to the book. Yellow and avocado botanical dyed papers. Most of the day the moth was quiet, but at night the big wings moved. The moth flew a little inside the tank. Let's let it out, said Terry. All right, said her mother. She took off the top of the tank. Soon the big moth moved its wings and flew up to a light. The next day, Terry looked all over the room. Where was the moth? It was not on the light. It was not on the floor. She looked on the sofa and chairs. The moth was gone. She is so fast asleep, he said, but she has waited so long. Wake her up, said Terry's mother. Then the three of them went to look at the cocoons. It's almost out, cried Terry. Slowly the moth pulled itself out of the cocoon. It looked wet and soft. Its wings look so tiny, said Terry. Wait, said her father. Soon, Terry said, I think the wings are getting bigger. Are they growing? Another page from the garden book with these poppy seed pods. Use the time to muse over your successes and failures and jot them down, lest you forget. Plants to order, plants to ditch, plants to move, and plants to give away to those who've been wise enough to admire them. Alan Titmarsh. This is a little jar that says homemade. And then some other kind of botanicals with bottles and pine cones. This beautiful page from the book of Terry and her mom looking out the window. And then this is another book page, but I've added here the little bits to it from the kit. 4 days went by and nothing happened. Terry's mother watched when Terry was in school. On Saturday, Terry had to go to a birthday party. Terry's mother had to be out of the house shopping. So just kind of, you don't need the whole page, you know what I mean? You can kind of see what it's just telling about what's going on in their life. So another journal card from the kit. And then I ended up using that lovely old 1920s Yardley's lavender ad as a tuck spot up here, and added a journal card of Terry's mom here on this old phone. Remember those days? Well, Terry's over here looking at her caterpillar cocoons. When Terry woke up, she went to the tank. "I want to keep this moth for a few days," she said. "Then I'll give it some more room in the tank," her father said. He made a high roof over the tank. No one got up Saturday night, but on Sunday morning another moth was sitting in the tank. "My goodness," said Terry, "the other one is out." Some dyed paper, a little fabric cluster, more of that flower press book. This talks about daisies. "The eye of the die," as Chaucer wrote, "closes its lashes at night and at first light opens its petals." How lovely. I love botanical books. They always have the most poetic and beautiful writing. So this is Stemperia paper, and we have a pocket made from the original book here of Terry and her mom. And then Terry sitting in this lovely rocking chair. I added a bit of botanical up here just for fun. Just a nice big journal tag. More avocado and Stemperia papers, more of the monarchs. All winter, millions of monarchs cluster together. This is the Stemperia paper with Terry in her terrarium looking at her moths, and a couple of fun little pieces from the paper collection. Just extra journaling bits. This is some of my own botanically dyed boiled book page with oak leaves on it. Some avocado dyed paper. She dips to sip nectar. More monarchs flutter down to join her. The monarchs flit from flower to flower. The flower nectar powers the monarchs as they fly to Mexico. More dyed paper. Indian silkworm moth, muslin bombyx, Acraceus bombyx, or Acraceus, owl moth. Isn't that beautiful? Some handmade paper. Another page from the kit here of Terry looking for her moth. Then she saw an open window. "That's it," said Terry. "That moth must be flying around outside." "Mother," Terry said, "I want the other moths to come out of their cocoons." "They will come out when they are ready," said her mother. "I have to be ready too," said Terry. "This time I want to see one coming out." "Well, we'll try," said her mother. Far beyond hope, the spring is kind again, lovely beyond the longing of my eyes. Margaret Cropper. We have a little moth down here, and sort of a gardening page, hand-dyed paper, another book page. "I hear a noise," she said. "Maybe something is going to happen at last," said her father. "We will call you if it does, Terry," said her mother. And then more of the story over here. Later, Terry's mother heard noises in one of the cocoons too. "Well," she said to Terry's father, "be sure to have a good look tonight." "I will," he said. At 4 a.m, Terry's father got up to look at the cocoons. And then we have this little bit from the paper collection with a butterfly, and this is a little journal card that I made. It's a fun I've used up some packaging and done a little collaging here, and I used another sort of little image of a little girl and some botanical collage, and then more collage on the back. And then I've added this blue butterfly here to the center of the signature. "Carry them in this." Terry put the cocoons in the bag. When she got to the party, she put the bag in back of her plate. "Any minute a moth may come out," she told her friends. "If it does, we can sing happy birthday to it." Some of the paper from my dyeing. "There is one luxury item in the utilitarian garden, a potting shed. I've just built one. It's a fabulous haven among composts and flower pots and forks. As an escape from the family, I recommend it with no reservations at all." Alan Titmarch. And then another of those gardening book pages. "Not really," said her father. "The moth is pumping them up with blood. It took a long time." They're talking about the wings of the moth. Remember earlier in the story she talked about how tiny the wings were? But slowly the moth's wings got bigger and bigger, and the moth's body got smaller and smaller. At 7 o'clock, Terry said, "How big its wings are. It looks like the first moth now." "Let's go back to bed," said Terry's mother. "It's Saturday. We can sleep late." More handmade paper. The Hartig's Brahmia, Butler's Brahmin, the Regal Moth, more hand-dyed paper, more of the monarchs, more avocado dyed paper, more of my botanically boiled book paper. Oh, there's a stray thread that I will just snip away here. I always miss one, at least when I go through these books. And then this Stamperia paper, and then a lovely little pocket of the mom there with putting the holes at the top of the jar so that they can breathe. And this is more from the Stamperia paper collection, Entomology, Natural History. And I've added some of my green dyed paper for writing on the inside. And then more of the Stamperia collection over here. I've added this to the outside of the pocket, kind of like a more decorative tab. And then inside, a few things. So the first is this bigger image of a cocoon. The jar was on Terry's desk all day. Just before it was time to go home, everyone had another look. There was a thin silk tent in the jar now. Inside it, the caterpillar was still moving. And that is a big tag for writing on. And a couple more pieces from the Spring Botanic paper collection. And that brings us to the end of Terry and the Caterpillars. So thank you everyone who followed along as I made this journal and had a lot of fun doing so. This one is spoken for, so she's going to be fluttering off home very soon. And I thank you again so much for all of the nice comments about my journey with this book. I definitely say, if you're inspired by this book, to keep your eyes out in your thrift shops and stuff. You may find it. I've only ever seen it this one time, but as soon as I saw it, it was just one of those, it just caught my eye. And that's often how I end up making these journals, that I get really inspired by a certain children's book that just really speaks to me, and this was one of them for sure. So hopefully you learned a little bit about the life of a moth as well. So I, as a knitter and as someone who works with wool, I spend most of my time sort of like paranoid that there's no moths in my home, because of course those are bad for the woolly person like me. But I really did enjoy reading about these moths, and I think this is very inspiring, because I'll definitely be doing this kind of a project with my daughter and my son for homeschooling. We'll be probably growing some monarchs in the next season. So all that being said, thank you. I hope you have a lovely day, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. We have fun here, so take care everyone. Bye for now.